This is Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Geno TV, Channel 99. And our guest today is PattyRoggeveen, who is now a free person.
That's a good way to put it.
Thanks for agreeing to be here today, Patty. I just wanted to sort of get your reflections on things and your view of the world now that you're not in the middle seat at the Board of Selection meetings. But just to go back and talk a little bit about the last 6 years when you've been a select person.
Yep.
What are your regrets about if any, about your time as a selectman?
Well, it's funny. I think it's like when you raise kids, you don't really know in the throe of it that it's such a wonderful period of time. You're sort of so focused on the work, and you're so focused on the demands of what you're doing, that when you get an opportunity like I am right now to look back at 6 years and feel very proud of it, you realize in the middle of it that I don't know, you should have been taking notes or something, because it's there. It was a wonderful time. I served with some fantastic people. Brian Chadwick called me this morning. He had come out yesterday and seen me standing, and the memories of times with individuals like Brian, like Whitey Willauer, some of those times where we could have been as contentious as anyone can imagine, and at the same time we're comrades and colleagues, and it was great. It was I think not as a negative, but as a real positive. It was a good experience. I'd have to think long and hard about issues. There's probably a smattering of things that you look back on, you're like, maybe I wasn't quite right with that. You do your best. And that is. But
there's nothing that strikes you between the eyes at this point with 12 hours to think about it.
No, nothing I have regrets about, and that's good. I mean, that's why I think I feel so good. I mean, I really do feel fine. I mean, ultimately, I look back at the 6 years without much in the way of regret. I feel like I gave it my all, and I gave the campaign my all. And for all of those things, you feel pretty good about it. The ultimately, that's all you can do. So. It's a good thing.
That's true.
It's a good thing.
And I don't think we're here to dissect the campaign, because that doesn't serve a lot of useful purpose at this point. But turn it around. What do you think your greatest accomplishments were, or the group's greatest accomplishments in this?
We had some, I believe, some real fiscal challenges when I first came on. Maybe it sounds like a broken record. I feel like we say it quite a bit, but. You can't take away from the fact that we were, I think, 3 or 4 years behind in audits. We were not without a qualified management letter for a good deal of time, and we brought all that forward. And it took some personnel changes, it took some difficult decisions, and some pressure. And we all worked together, and I think it took some negotiating, and that was all positive. I also think that the change in town council, one of the more controversial things we did, I still feel it was one of the best things we did in the long term for the town. I do think that ultimately, it's really important for any contractor to have to compete for, the position. We just did it with our accountants, and we changed.
The auditor, yes.
Yeah, the auditors, right, thank you. I think that all those things make for a much better product at the end of the day, and they're just best practices that have to be maintained, and in those cases it's not by law but by best practice. And then finally, the water quality issues, the sewer. We still have so much to do there, but the rates themselves and some of the questions about what areas need to be included in the sewer districts will be the subject of much discussion. And then we've had our outliers, the airport, and things of that nature. It's just
what about the migration of the town offices away from Broad Street to both two fairgrounds and the former and the Washington Street building?
The Washington Street building is. And I think you have to look at the question about offices in the context of what we're talking about with respect to current properties. That's not to say that maybe we couldn't think through other opportunities in town. Okay, so But right now in town, what we have are very dilapidated buildings in flood zones. And what that means, and why I point that out, is because any kind of renovation there is going to be extremely expensive. And at least what I've heard in the last few months is that people are reluctant to put municipal dollars into that kind of investment. And it's not about in town, out of town at that point. It's about, how much are we willing to spend to upgrade the old police station.
But there is a trade-off, and don't you need to know as part of that trade-off, sort of what the additional cost of staying or moving is in terms of the renovations, in the sense of, well, the fire station is a different issue. Let's look at the Mooney building, for example,
right,
which has just been allowed by the town, long before you were involved, just been allowed to decay and never had a cent put into it. Or maybe a cent, but not much more than that.
Well, that's what we're doing with the fire station right now, just so you know. I mean, there's the upkeep of the municipal facilities is certainly something that we need to be focused on, and I don't think we put enough attention to, which is why I was focused on the fire station and hope to still advocate in whatever role for that kind of thing, because we will face the Mooney building very soon, and we'll be pouring money into a facility that is not up to par to begin with. There's I think 3 possible options. So in town, out of town, new property in town is something that I wanted to think through a little bit more detail, and that's the N-Grid lot as a potential source for something there, because I do see a value of having municipal folks in town, but I also see a real challenge as far as the footprint's concerned on Washington, on the current town on Broad Street. So, we need to walk through that. We need to see what the cost would be. We need to do some real serious, appraisals of what those, those changes would bring, and then make the decision. And I think it's up to the taxpayer. I think this is a town meeting decision. I really do. I really think that this is the kind of thing that town meeting is best at discussing and at deciding, because it is ultimately, their voice that will matter. And if it means that we can't find other property, then that might mean an out of town situation. But I do think there's a few steps in between the black and the white of the in-town and out-of-town that need to be explored.
But, again, downtown revitalization has been something that you've worked on. And
right.
if you move anything more, certainly probably moving some of what's already been moved out.
Well, no, because the proposal we put together actually had a new municipal facility.
No, I understand that. But, I mean, in terms of this balancing of cost versus cost benefit, if you will, the moving of more municipal offices from downtown has to be looked at in the context of what it does to the businesses that remain open. I mean, for example, I think the Brotherhood was pretty badly affected by the move of the Board of Selectmen's meetings, believe it or not, out to Fairgrounds. Now, maybe somebody else has benefited from that move, and that's fine, but it has an impact, and now the Brotherhood isn't open all year round anymore since those moves were made.
Well, since I can be a private citizen, let me ask you a question, Dan.
Yeah.
All right.
Fair.
What would you see as the I don't, and what I'm getting to is I don't think we know what the impact. Take the selectmen's meetings, right? Yeah. People come, they watch the selectmen meeting. Do they always go out afterwards? Is a question.
Some of the selectmen used to. I don't know if they do now, but they used to.
Do the people?
The old town council.
You got it. Not me. Do the individuals that come to here, do they go out afterwards? They take parking spaces. How does that impact at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday night? I mean, all those are questions that certainly need to be explored. And then there are very different questions on whether or not you want to put a couple hundred people in town for a 9 to 4 or 8 to 4 job, and what are they doing as far as their behavior and movement and the whole 9 yards. And ultimately, there's so many cross-cutting issues with respect to this, particularly on that location, because you got the courthouse in there, you've got other demands on that building. That I thought Wilkes Square actually had a great solution, which was to build a brand new facility on the footprint. It's certainly going to be cheaper than a renovation on the footprint of the N-Grid lot, and you've got you got people in town, possibilities for parking, and as well as not having to deal with some of the flood zone issues,
Right.
and there they are in town. So again. And once that decision is made, maybe we don't need to hold on to fairgrounds, at least all of that property, and we can get some revenue there too.
Are all three of those buildings along Broad Street, the old fire station, the town building, and the Mooney building, are they all in the flood zone?
I'm trying to recall. I do know that the line goes up to the door of the town building, that side door. And
That backs up on the fire station.
yeah. And I do believe it goes, I hadn't looked in the line in a while, much higher than obviously it had before.
Yeah.
And it does capture the Mooney building at some point. So I know it wiggles, but it certainly gets there. So, yeah.
Okay. A couple of other questions. We don't have a lot of time left, but the form of government that we have now,
Yes.
do you like it or not? Do you think it can be improved on?
You mean the town meeting?
Town meeting and Board of Selectmen, rather than having an elected mayor type or an elected first selectman with a
Right.
smaller board?
I do think that when you get right down to it, as far as the Board of Selectmen, it's the personalities. Some boards work better together than others, and I will say it's the chairman. I mean, it's the capacity to sort of bring, the team together and to make some movement forward. And again, I'm not ready to move to a town council system. So I do think that, in my mind, a mayor matches well with the town council system in terms of representative legislature, because the efficiencies are captured on both ends. What I think is, when you take something like a selectman form and you match it with a town meeting, you distribute power out, and I think that's the goal, that's the point, and I'm still comfortable with that for Nantucket. I do believe that we're small enough to still manage that well. And I do think that it's probably a bit more of a challenge for the town manager because there's so many ends that have to be secured. But as far as Nantucket's concerned, I don't feel, given our size and the nature of the island, that we're ready to go into a different direction.
Do you think a special town meeting is going to become a regular event?
Yes, I do, and I think I think that it helps us take issues that do come up as the year progresses, in a timely way, and I think that's important.
How are you going to stay involved after you catch your breath?
It's funny. I'm glad you asked it that way, because I will be staying involved. I think that for me, it's it's always been not only something I'm intrigued with and enjoy, but something that matters to me quite a bit. And I don't know. I mean, I will say it's not been that long to sort of look at the picture. I think out of the process that I've been, or at least the 6 years, I am committed to an alternative media source, and I think that's something we share and we've talked about.
Right.
I do think we need a second perspective on this island. I'd love to do anything I could to help with that. My feeling ultimately is that without that, we're not getting good government. We really aren't. We're not getting dialogue, and we're not getting necessarily information the way we should. And all of it matters to the big picture. And so, I look now at the public TV, the public access station, with some interest. And it may be that it's not the seat on the board necessarily that I'll be looking at, but maybe something a little bit on the message side of things, because again, it's something that matters quite a bit to me, and I think it definitely changes policy. Absolutely changes policy. So
Well,
could be.
We do share that view.
We do. Yeah, we do.
Thank you, Patty, and welcome to retirement.